Hello and welcome back to Simple Money Podcast, Canada's own personal finance podcast, presented in short and informative episodes. I'm your host, Matthew Sewick, also known as the Friendly Financial Coach. Today, we have a very special news update that affects education planning for Ontario students. Yesterday, the Ontario government announced the elimination of what was lovingly called free tuition, also known as the new OSAP. The program was a grant that would cover all or a portion of a student's tuition costs if their household's adjusted net income was below a specific threshold. This was big news when it was announced a couple years ago. However, the end is here. The elimination of this program and many other changes were announced yesterday, with the implementation beginning during the 2019-2020 academic year. The main explanation for the elimination of this program by the government is due to the ballooning costs of the program and financial difficulties of the province. It was reported by the Auditor General of Ontario that the cost of the program would quickly reach $2 billion. After the changes are implemented, OSAP will roll back to the previous grant and loan amounts, and it is still unclear if all the previous grants that were in place before the new OSAP was introduced will be re-implemented. Obviously, the hardest hit here will be low-income households. It was stated by the provincial government that households that earn under $50,000 will still be supported, but details of this assistance is very unclear. On a positive note, the Ontario government also announced that it will be cutting all tuition costs in the 2019-2020 academic year by 10%. The impact of this is stated to be on average $340 for college students and $660 for university students. Tuition will also be frozen for the 2020-2021 academic year. The drop in revenue caused by the cut in tuition fees will be absorbed by each educational institution accordingly, and the government will only support those in northern regions. Some other changes that have been implemented are the elimination of the 6-month interest grace period on the provincial component when a student has graduated school. Previously, a student would not be charged interest for the 6-month period when they completed school. Another big change is that some student fees will now be changed from mandatory to voluntary. This means that a student will have the option of supporting select organizations to give their money to. However, health services, athletics, academic support, and more will still be considered to be mandatory. School clubs, student associations, campus newspapers, and more will be now considered to be voluntary. Many of these organizations see this as a direct attack against them. The definition of being an independent student is also changing. A student now needs to be out of school for 6 years as compared to the previous 4 years. The big impact of this is that a dependent student is qualified for OSAP using their parents' income, while an independent student has their personal income used to apply for an OSAP loan. And in most cases, a parent's income will be much higher than a student's income, leading to a drop in OSAP qualification. Finally, another big change is that the expected contributions made by a student towards their education will be increasing from $3,000 to an undisclosed amount. The calculation that OSAP uses to determine its combined loan and grant portions is based on total costs. This includes education and living costs, with expected student contributions subtracted. What this means is that the total OSAP loan and grant portion will also be reduced through this change. That's it for today. If you have any questions or comments, please contact me directly at info@ffcoach.ca, or you can find me on Twitter at F_F coach. Take care and talk to you soon.